So first, I'd like to have introduced Dr. Fernando Martinez. He's director of the BIOS Institute at the University of Arizona.
Thank you very much. I'm the director of Bio5 at the University of Arizona, and for reasons that you will see in a moment, I have the chance to interview literally hundreds of young faculty and young faculty candidates that come to the university. I will explain in a moment why that is. It has to do with a question that was asked before with respect to how on earth is there any money for interdisciplinary research in Arizona. And the opportunity to have those interviews have convinced me that although most of what has been said here with respect to the potential of interdisciplinary research has been very useful, we also need to think about some of the obstacles that we're facing. And I will perhaps center my attention on that because it's one of the issues that we're trying to address positively at the University of Arizona, and particularly through Bio5. Could I have the, how do I get the next slide? Here. And when I talk to these young faculty, I hear some mumblings that are very similar to this that was presented by Dr. Lyle and co-workers in a nice paper from Great Britain on obstacles and the power of interdisciplinary research. If you want a position with a university, you have to have a discipline. I've heard this so many times. This implies you have to have published in these disciplines and to shape your research in a way that will fit this discipline. If you have an interdisciplinary research center, this allows for interdisciplinary research. But they're funded on soft money, and researchers are on short-term contracts. I, of course, have made a big effort to try to dissuade people that this is a wrong idea. But this is the idea that many times they present to me when I say, I'm the director of Bio5, we're here to do interdisciplinary research. More mumblings. Universities require researchers to think in disciplinary ways. Not all universities are like ASU. Ours is strictly based on departments. Reward researchers for disciplinary thinking. Put people in departments that require them to publish in disciplinary journals, even if they are completely inappropriate for your research. The academic life is structured around disciplines. I have heard this time and time again. And if we try to think that this has been overcome, we're wrong. All of us here are into interdisciplinary research, but there are a lot of people out there who see the push towards interdisciplinary research in a menacing way. Let me tell you a little bit about Bio5. It was created, it's very similar to BioX. I would say that it's almost as if we would have done it in parallel to Dr. Schatz and to the Institute at Stanford. Instead of BioX, we're Bio5 because it was created from 5 disciplines initially, as I have said here. And here is how we're funded. In the early 2000s, we were in a boom in Arizona. Now we're not. And at the time of the boom, the taxpayers, in their wisdom, decided that they really wanted to have a lot of wonderful research in Arizona. So they voted for a 20-year increase in the sales tax that, of course, now probably they would like to take back, but they can't. And so for that, both ASU, NAU, and the University of Arizona have been, I would say, very graciously funded by taxpayers to foster the types of research that Bio5, BioX, and the other institutes I've heard about develop. We also have an interdisciplinary building. We also have 200 scientists that are part of 50 research groups that are within our single building. But we also have over 400 members of Bio5, same as BioX, that participate in interdisciplinary research. And for that reason, since, again, we're organized in departments, the Bio5 director, which is I am, is the cajoler-in-chief. Our mission is to convince the young faculty that the preconcepts that they come to us that were so clearly explained in the quote citations before are not true. Therefore, one of the first obstacles we face that we are slowly, I would say, but I think very clearly overcoming is the false basic science convergence dichotomy. Because convergence is often defined as problem-solving oriented and as generators of products as opposed to knowledge, some individuals who practice basic research tend to think about that as a dichotomy with respect to what they do. For example, they often accuse those who go for interdisciplinary research of deviating funding from and curtailing basic science. Of course, in times of scarcity and predominance of fiscal and lay priorities, they charge this is narrowing the scope of research. And one of them told me once, the discovery of telomeres was not the result of an RFA on aging. This is the basic and, in my opinion, false dichotomy. But if we think it has disappeared, we're wrong. It is still out there, and it's still very strong. The head of one of the departments this weekend sent me this article by Victor Zhao on one of the areas that faces some of these very significant pressures that are fiscal pressures. And Dr. Zhao, who is a major leader in at Duke University, wrote that we believe that academic health centers require enterprise-wide planning and management to prepare for their uncertain future. The PricewaterhouseCoopers report highlights that AHC's decentralized structures as a barrier to their ability to respond to these challenges. And then he underlined for me, such decentralization, this is my head of the department, has permitted innovation, but a culture of faculty individuality and autonomy can conflict with the imperatives of team-based care and regulatory compliance. This was anathema for this head of the department, because it said that what, quote, you guys want to do is to eliminate the culture of faculty individuality and autonomy. And I'm sure that's not what Dr. Zhao wants to do. But in presenting the imperatives we have, and they're there, and they're very strong in terms of fiscal constraints, sometimes we present it in a way that appears to make this dichotomy a reality, when it is not. At Bio5, what we're trying to do today in a university that has almost $600 million in research, and therefore has very, very strong basic research, is to address this false dichotomy. There is really no break in the basic science to solution continuum. Interdisciplinary research is really not the applied branch, the problem solver of the research enterprise, as the way we present it to our faculty, and in the way we as Bio5 try to lead this. We present it as part of a continuum of long-range development, and it does not replace knowledge creation. It is its natural result. Why is it that I am insisting in these things? Because a temptation to solve this dichotomy and this problem that has been implicit in a lot of the things that have been said is that we will be able to solve this problem with administrative measures, with a new P&T system, with some form of incentive for interdisciplinary research. Let me tell you, we have tried that. I've been director of Bio5 for 5 years, and before I was the founder of Bio5, Vicki Chandler, a member of the National Academy of Sciences and a plant scientist, also tried hard. If you don't make the interdisciplinary enterprise become a part of what the departments themselves in a university based on departments consider is essential for the development, in this case of the life sciences, it is not going to happen, because it is not going to be forced down their throats. They need to make those principles on which we're proposing them to base promotion, tenure, and stimulus of faculty part of what each department considers is essential for what they do. In other words, interdisciplinary research is not a menace to the culture of individuality and autonomy, which is essential for creativity. It is a different form of it. And if we present it that way, I think we will not have to impose, for example, as some people have proposed, that a member of the interdisciplinary research is part of the promotion and tenure committees, although it would be good. But it will be assumed by all members of all departments. What we have tried to do at Bio5 is to create what I call the Convergence or Interdisciplinary Research Basic Science Alliance. In other words, supporting excellence, we consider, is an essential part of the continuum. All the initiatives that Bio5 takes to develop interdisciplinary research include fostering within them very basic aspects of the sciences and the specific areas of research that are being stimulated. So we foster, as part of the interdisciplinary enterprise, both exploration and goal-oriented research. And we have identified cluster hire initiatives in which this continuum is part of it, as I will show you in a moment. There's a second obstacle that has not been talked too much about and I would like to raise, which is many times raised to me by these young faculty I spend most of my time interviewing as director of Bio5, which is the idea that it is going to be more difficult to progress in science if they dedicate themselves to the complex job of being part of a team. That being part of a team is more difficult, much more difficult, than aiming at a 250K R01, which would take them to tenure, one or two of them, if they get them during the period of tenure. It's important to understand that coalescence is a difficult process. It's an active process. It takes time to integrate it. It takes deliberate steps to go forward. A lot of the young faculty are worried that if they get into it, they won't make it in time. Not so much that they won't be considered because they don't have a personal R01, but because they won't even get there because it takes so much time and so much effort. And when you're trying to solve a problem with a human being, you have a series of regulatory obstacles that you have to overcome. So with respect to this second aspect, I think it's essential that both faculty, businesses, and the community are fully aware of what coalescent research implies and what convergence research implies. In other words, that accountability is part of what we do when we do interdisciplinary research, that there is review of progress and adjustments before somebody asks, are institutes closed? Even a process by which an initiative that has not been successful is closed. The final goal, I think, is to create consensus to overcome the cultural barriers and confrontational approaches that we don't have to fool ourselves are still out there. Let me very briefly end telling you what we're doing as Bio5 to address this issue. And we have defined, as many other universities, because these are the big themes of the time, we have identified 3 areas of cluster hires. And the reason is very simple. Computational approaches to the life sciences. Bio5 and the University of Arizona is where the iPlant initiative is housed. This initiative, which was funded with $50 million by the NSF to develop a cyber infrastructure in plant sciences, now has been asked to move to a new approach in which such cyber infrastructure is applied to other areas of the biological sciences, and therefore this offers us as a university the opportunity to, again, go through the whole spectrum of the knowledge creation and solution problem enterprise. The second one is innovation in imaging and microscopy. At the University of Arizona, as many of you know, we have a College of Optical Sciences, which is part of our astronomy enterprise, which is the largest research enterprise at the University of Arizona. And that particular college and those that are involved in it are now particularly interested in projecting what they have learned by understanding the stars to what could be learned in understanding human health and disease. And the third one, of course, because we have a very strong College of Pharmacy, targeted drug development. For each of these, we have defined not only that we're going to put funding, that part of the taxpayers' funding that was given to us to support this initiative, but we're also going to create a managing structure that will allow us to evaluate, give it milestones, evaluate it, and involve all those that could be interested in participating. But an essential part of it, which is what I wanted to stress particularly today, is we have involved in them both objectives that have specifically to do with addressing the questions and the solutions that we're trying to find, but also essential basic science questions that need to be part of that continuum. In doing so, I think we are striving to create that continuum, but also that consensus that will eliminate this false dichotomy between basic sciences and convergence, which I think is one of the main obstacles we have to face in bringing new faculty into this area. Thank you so much.